So, in this segment, we're going to be talking about the government officially asking for an extension to the grace period that's ending in June regarding chilled meats. So, that's things like, sausage preparations and all that stuff. So, it's interesting that the government have done this considering that they've been threatening unilateral action over the last few weeks, really, since I think before the G7 summit, which was about a week ago, I think. But anyways, it's quite interesting because last time the government didn't ask for extensions to the grace periods that ended in March regarding specific aspects of the Northern Ireland Protocol. So it's possible that Frost is doing this because he wants scope for when he actually takes unilateral action to blame the EU for not sort of accepting the request. Or he's shook and he realizes that there's a potential trade war coming the UK's way if we decide to take unilateral action again. So if we look at the specifics here, this is written just before the proposal was confirmed. So just before that, just before it was confirmed that Frost had asked for an extension. So in this article, they mentioned that they want the sausage ban to be suspended. I don't think that's the right wording. It would be an extension would be the correct phrasing in my opinion. But Lisa Carroll generally does great work, so I'm not gonna go after her for it. So the UK is asked to suspend an imminent ban. Again, I would say extension. On the sale of British sausages in Northern Ireland to give both sides breathing space. So there's the interesting statement. There's an interesting statement there. Give both sides breathing space. Both sides don't need breathing space. One side needs breathing space. That's the English side, because we haven't got the facilities in place to do the checks we're meant to do anyways, and the fact that it's not a problem for the EU. We've already accepted in 2019 that there would be an end to the transport of chilled meats from GB to NI. I'll show you that agreement in a bit. But it's simply the case that he's trying to save face here by saying, this extension is going to help both sides here, when it's just going to help the British. To negotiate an agreement on the Brexit protocol and avert a trade war. So that means Frost knows that if he takes unilateral action here, a trade war is imminent. The EU are already in the process of taking legal action. The current legal action over the unilateral extensions in March, that's going to take place, I think, in September or October. And I've got a video coming out about that soon, about the EU's possible options when it comes to legal action regarding the unilateral actions the UK took in March. So, I'm hoping that video is going to go well. I got some help from some legal experts as well. So shouts out to them, and we'll get there when we get there. So Frost, the Brexit minister, was speaking days after Boris Johnson warned he would do whatever it takes to protect Northern Ireland's position as part of the UK. So this is a load of nonsense, but you can see Boris Johnson was talking tough, but now he's asked for an extension. Now he's kind of at the mercy of the EU in this respect. With regards to an extension. From the end of this month, a grace period on an EU prohibition on the sale of chilled meats from GB to NI shops is due to expire as part of the Northern Ireland Protocol. So that was a grace period agreed, I think it was the end of last year, where typically third countries aren't allowed to sell chilled meats into the EU. Third countries can't do that. But the EU were fairly nice here and gave us an extension, which they shouldn't have done in hindsight, because the UK are using this to cause problems. This was designed to prevent the restoration of a hard border on the island of Ireland. So this was kind of a compromise from the EU in order to give businesses in Northern Ireland time to kind of reroute supply chains, which they kind of haven't done for the most part, I think, if this is still an issue. But they are doing so, buying more stuff from Ireland rather than buying stuff from GB. So Frost confirmed the UK had proposed an arrangement with the EU in which most of the controversial border checks on meat and dairy would be abolished, but admitted the proposal had very little traction from Brussels. So he's talking about equivalency here, which the EU aren't going to give us. And even then, equivalency wouldn't solve a lot of the problems. And the Guardian do have like a kind of comparison thing you can use to show you the difference between the Swiss model, the New Zealand equivalency deal, and of course the other third countries. So Frost had told MPs on the Northern Ireland Affairs Committee it would be a pity if the EU did not respond to the request for an extension, as the negotiations were already complex and tense. Well, they're already tense because of you, pal, because of your unilateral action, the fact that we're not implementing the things we are actually meant to implement. So that's on us. And plus the fact that he's asked for an extension on what is the 17th of June, 16th of June, right, for an extension that's going to end in less than 2 weeks. So it's pretty embarrassing that at the last minute, not at the last minute, but near enough, final 2 weeks, he's had 6 months to really do this. He's come out and asked for an extension. It could be so when the UK take unilateral action, it gives him more scope to justify it to the British people and stuff like that. But again, it's a pretty bad look for a guy who has maligned an agreement that he helped to negotiate. So Frost said good progress was being made, blah, blah, blah. If we could get a better atmosphere, it'd be very good, he said. We'll stop taking unilateral action, implement the checks we actually meant to implement, and, stop being a douche. That's my advice to you, Frost. We have asked and suggested the right way forward would be to agree to extend the grace period, at least for a bit, to provide breathing space. So he wants to extend it for another 3 months. And towards the end of the video, I'll talk about why I think an extension is the right thing to do. A spokesperson for the European Commission said, "I'm not aware of any such request that you mentioned." That's happened now. The EU have gotten the request, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. We'll get through this article first. It says, this is the EU spokesperson saying this. First of all, that we agreed a grace period on a number of different things in December, but the UK government was not in a position to be fully ready for the end of the transition period. This included, for example, chilled meats, which was a grace period for 6 months. It also included, importantly, conditions which the UK government needed to adhere to during that period. I think you would have seen and heard from us that a lot of these conditions aren't being respected at this point of time. So this spokesperson is saying that the UK aren't adhering to the rules. We gave them extra time via this grace period to get their act together, and that still hasn't happened. So again, the EU don't have to give this extension, but I think they will. But they need to get some sort of concession out of the UK to say that we will finally respect these rules. If not, then there will be X punishment that we have to accept. The spokesperson goes on to say, I think overall our main aim is to provide predictability and stability to the people in Northern Ireland. Well, if you want to do that, you're not going to extend the grace period, and you're going to help them move supply chains out of GB. That is our overarching aim. We are willing to find solutions. We are willing to work with the UK in the framework of the joint bodies, in the joint committee. So the EU kind of saying that, look, there are mechanisms within the agreement that we can use to resolve any issues, and we are going to use those mechanisms. But I think the spokesperson is saying, don't be stupid to the UK, don't take any more unilateral action. But that we need to see credible implementation by the UK of their commitments on their side. So he's saying that, look, we have an agreement. There are mechanisms in place that we can use if there are issues, but you really need to hold up your end of the bargain. Frost said a negotiated position was the best outcome. Well, that's no duh. Like, no one wants more unilateral action. Like, don't be stupid, man. Obviously, they want a negotiated outcome. The problem is the UK, we haven't held up our side of the bargain, and that's a major problem. If we had held up our side of the bargain and we're starting implementing checks properly and stuff like that, and then we went to the EU and said, look, we need more time with chilled meats because, we export a lot of chilled meats and stuff like that from GB to NI, I think the EU would be far more forgiving and understanding of the situation. But the simple fact is, we've decided to mess around, and now we've gone to the lecturer near enough the last minute and asked for an extension because we haven't done the research we're meant to do. That's what this is. A bad uni student, essentially. Frost confirmed the UK had accepted some control on goods, but that it was a super delicate issue and needed to be handled sensitively. So you're saying the UK gave away some control or some sovereignty to the EU. Arguing there's still time to loosen the tensions and agree a deal on the protocol. But the thing is, a deal has been agreed. The protocol is the deal. This kind of idea that they're going to agree a deal upon the already agreed deal is ridiculous. Like, what's this man thinking? You're going to get the EU to concede on something that they thought we were going to hold in good faith. Like, don't be stupid, man. Honestly, this guy is so frustrating to listen to because he's like, oh, look, we have an agreement, but we need another agreement because we haven't held up our side of the bargain already. Do you think the EU actually want to give you concessions when you haven't done the things you were meant to do? The dispute came to a head over what's been billed as the looming sausage trade war, which we've spoken about before. I've kind of debunked it. The EU warned it would retaliate swiftly if the UK suspended that deadline unilaterally, prompting veiled threats of a possible trade war. So the EU has options here. They can start suspending parts of the trading cooperation agreement. They can end, I think, something called passporting, which allows people within services to travel around the EU without any issues. They can end that within 3 months. All they have to give is a 3 months notice. They can start suspending equivalency between UK services and EU services. So that would definitely cause a mass exodus out of the city of London. That's far worse than we've already seen. So the EU have options here. It's just going to be a question of what are they going to do and how smart are they going to be about this. Frost said the unease could be eliminated. Frost insisted the UK had a workable solution to the problems, which is a load of nonsense, which we'll talk about. He talks about a New Zealand-style agreement on food and agriculture that would be recognising the equivalent standards between the UK and the EU. So if we look here, right, this is the Swiss-style agreement. So you got, all of these things are allowed. Pet passport looks like it's allowed. All you need is a certificate by the looks of things. Border checks abolished, all green. But if we look at the New Zealand stuff, live animals are allowed, red meat's allowed, fresh minced red meat banned, minced poultry meat banned, live bivalve mollusks for purification banned because New Zealand is a third country and the EU doesn't allow unpurified shellfish into the EU. So that would a New Zealand style equivalency deal wouldn't help the fishermen in this country, but I suppose that's a whole different thing. Personal imports banned. That's like sandwiches and stuff like that, like you bring in from in your lorry. Do you remember the guy in the Netherlands who had a sandwich confiscated and was really upset about it? But even if you look here, right, you can see the certificates are simplified, but they wouldn't be abolished. Even there, on composite products, standard. Pet non-commercial, standard. So it's simplified to an extent, but there are still checks in place. So this kind of idea that, most of the checks would be gone is semi-true. But still, 1 to 10% of checks done on red meat, 1 to 10% done on poultry meat, fishery products 1 to 10%, stuff like this. And the thing is, right, the New Zealand export far less to the EU than the UK does, and that's why we might still run into problems. But if you look at where we kind of are now, which is I think is this area, you can see the checks are live animals 100% checked. Same with New Zealand, but you can see here 15% on red meat, 30% on poultry meat, stuff like this is far higher, and this is where we are now. And the other issue is I don't think the EU will actually give us a deal on equivalency because the UK cannot be trusted. You can trust the New Zealand government, from what I've seen of them, they're pretty good. The thing with the UK government is that they cannot be trusted and they prove they cannot be trusted. That's the issue. So he talks about this would not get this would not get around the ban on chilled meats, but a trusted trader scheme could address that. Frost suggested, well, that's not going to happen because what if I was a journalist or if I was an MP, I would ask Frost, where has the EU accepted a trusted trader scheme for third countries to export chilled meats into the EU? Because as far as I know of, there is no such scheme. So this kind of argument he's making is ridiculous. No doubt, even if we had a trusted trader scheme, he'd still blame the EU for not being able to export chilled meats from GB to NI. Because this guy's an absolute charlatan, honestly. He says there was little to no risk of chilled meats destined for Northern Ireland supermarkets and corner shops entering the Irish High Street. But the thing is, the EU are taking a zero risk approach. So deal with it. That's what you accepted at the start. Grow up. He says the core of the difficulty is that the UK had high standards on food, equivalent to those in the EU, but the EU insisted on checks even though they were not necessary, he said. But the thing is, from what I remember, the EU did offer a deal on equivalency, but the UK said no because we want to be free to deregulate. And now we're saying, oh yeah, the mean EU not giving us a deal on equivalency when we said no in the first place. Now the EU are saying we want you to accept dynamic alignment because you cannot be trusted. Essentially, that's why they want it. He said, Frost goes on to say, if we can inject some momentum into the negotiation and show that solutions are possible, I'd like to think that would help. But the thing is, you've already made the situation toxic by taking unilateral action. That's the problem, Frost. I don't understand how you can't figure this out. You're the one who made the world toxic, and now you're the one saying, we can solve the problem, when you're the one causing the problem. You and Boris Johnson. If we look here, confirmed that the EU did receive the request, saying that the European Commission received today a request from the United Kingdom to extend a grace period concerning the movement of chilled meats from GB to NI, agreed within the context of the Northern Ireland Protocol. So we'll see. Again, there's not a lot of time, so I'm not sure who's going to be in charge of authorising this extension. But let's not forget here, the UK did agree to this. They agreed to restrictions and prohibitions of minced meat of poultry, but wild game bird, frozen or chilled mincemeat from animals other than poultry, chilled meat preparations, etc. So the UK accepted this back in 2019. So the fact we still haven't figured things out and haven't trained the relevant staff is embarrassing. And for anyone who says, well, it takes time to train up customs agents and things like that, the EU offered us longer grace periods so we could have got everything sorted, but we chose not to take them. So once again, it's the fault of the UK. So going on to kind of the concluding point, which is that I think the EU will accept this extension because they don't want to have to start a trade war if the UK takes unilateral action, which we probably will do. Marching season is coming, and that's when tensions can ramp up high, especially given we saw kind of violence already in March. From what I've heard about marching season, it's going to be far worse, the violence, especially if things like chilled meats can't get into the UK because for some reason the headbangers and like the kind of radical kind of DUP people will be stoking the tension, saying that, look, we can't get access to British meats, we're being more and more sort of pushed towards buying things from Ireland, and that means the union is crumbling or some nonsense like that. And so no one wants to see violence kind of spark, especially during the marching season. So I can see the EU accepting an extension here with some sort of concession or some sort of agreement from the UK that they're going to start implementing checks properly and stop acting like such idiots, because marching season, it'll be over. I'm not sure how long, but I'm guessing it's not going to last 3 months. So once marching season is over, those kind of tensions are kind of lowered, and so that's when the UK can take far more actions against the UK. The EU can take more actions against the UK. So that's why I think the EU are going to accept this extension. But again, I'm not 100% sure about what's going to happen. But what we do know is that the UK has finally asked for an extension, which tells you that they weren't going to take unilateral action this time. At least they're looking for some sort of get out of jail card to kind of push the blame onto the EU by saying, oh, look, we asked through the channels and we asked for an extension and they didn't want to give one, and marching season is coming, we don't want to see tensions escalate in Northern Ireland, so once again we had to take unilateral action to help the people of Northern Ireland because Britain is sovereign and Northern Ireland is a part of Great Britain. I don't know what that accent was, but yeah. Anyways, in conclusion, Frost has asked for an extension, probably because he wants to avoid a trade war, especially since the EU is already taking legal action against the UK, and that's something we'll be discussing in another video, hopefully at some point next week. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.